Happy Sunday, Tampa Bay. We're with you for another week here on the Duncan Duo Real Estate Show, like we are every Sunday at 10 a.m. here on WFLA News. Excited to talk to you more about what is going on in the Tampa Bay real estate market. Andrew Duncan with the Duncan Duo team, LPT Realty. We are growing and we are hiring. If you're a real estate agent that has struggled, if you're not hitting the sales numbers that you want, if you need more coaching and accountability, please go to jointheduo.com. Again, that is jointheduo.com. You can register for our career night. You can apply for any one of our open positions, and you can schedule a confidential consultation through our Calendly link and get the details about what it is that we look for when we're adding someone to our team. So if you are thinking about real estate, if you are in real estate, not hitting the numbers you want to hit, again, that is jointheduo.com. Again, that's jointheduo.com. And I'm sporting my Lightning hat today. Opening hockey week this week. Lots of cool stuff with the Lightning. Excited to be back for my 10th year. I think it's 10th, maybe even 11th year of partnership with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Going to a lot of games, and we'll have the details on our appreciation event coming soon, and we'll do some cool giveaways. So make sure you're following us on all of our socials at The Duncan Duo. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. I talked last week with Melissa Rodriguez, our preferred mortgage lender at Citywide Home Mortgage, and I want to kind of reiterate a few things that I spoke with her about last week. And the first one is the government shutdown. There's a lot of confusion about the government shutdown in terms of how it impacts real estate. And right now, the impact has been relatively minimal. You know, we're a little over a week, about a week and a half into the shutdown. And so the reality is that the impact has been minimal because VA and FHA loans haven't been disrupted. They have enough funding for now. There's still enough people working. We have not seen problems with VA and FHA home loan closings. Where we have seen problems is with flood insurance. Flood insurance is FEMA, and FEMA is a government entity. So, you know, for all intents and purposes, the biggest obstacle to getting a closing right now with the government shutdown is flood insurance if it's required or being purchased in the transaction. And, of course, if it's a FEMA flood insurance product. There are private carrier flood insurance options, not a lot of them, but there are some. So, nonetheless, the impact so far has been relatively minimal. Now, the longer it stretches, the more we start to see impact. The other place that we see impact is from consumers that are furloughed or laid off, while the government is shut down because of the impact of it. So if they're a government employee, a defense contractor, they work for the Fed, something involved with the federal government, those people, if they're a buyer that's buying your home or if they're out there looking, they're obviously on the sidelines for right now. So far, it's not had an enormous impact on real estate. In years past, it had a bigger impact. Only thing I can say is maybe this administration got a little ahead of it. Maybe they're just better prepared, or maybe they have more people that are willing to work for free right now. My understanding is all of them get caught up and they do end up getting back pay if they work while the shutdown is here. But there are some disruptions. Now, where there can be some obstacles with FHA and VA would be things like, if you're buying a traditional home right now, we've had FHA and VA closings go fine. Where we could see obstacles would be if you're trying to get a new condo community approved or an FHA spot approval or some sort of extra thing that's above and beyond a normal kind of FHA, purchase product. Some of those things can, start to cause an impact. But so far, it has not been a major impact. So we also spoke to Melissa last week. Speaking of FHA and VA mortgages, I want to remind everyone out there and have them prepare for this. Just write down citywidetampa.com. Okay, they're our preferred lender. Melissa is awesome. The best loan officer that I've dealt with in 20 years in this business. That's saying a lot. A few $1 billion in real estate sales, and she is amazing. She answers her phone 365, 24/7. She's phenomenal at service. Her loans close. She navigates through problems. She's got all kinds of, every program available. Very, very, very knowledgeable. Again, citywidetampa.com. And the reason why I want you to write it down is if you have an FHA or a VA mortgage right now, I want you to be prepared, okay, for how you can save some money at the end of the year. So again, if you have an FHA or a VA mortgage right now, okay, there is a reasonably good chance that you could refinance into a lower rate by the end of the year and do what's called a streamline. Okay, it's called something slightly different with VA, but it's a streamline refinance that lowers your interest rate, doesn't cost you any money. And typically, if you play it right and time it right, and Melissa can help you with this, you can miss a payment. You can skip a payment. Now you don't really. It's not as if you're you're still paying the money, but it kind of gets lumped into the mortgage. So you kind of have a period of time where you do the refinance, and you have a short period of time where you'd normally have a mortgage payment, and you don't have one until the following month if you time it right. So the reason why I want you to pay attention in the next couple of months, if you have an FHA or a VA mortgage, and specifically if you have an FHA or VA mortgage in the high sixes into the sevens, okay. You're going to be able to refinance, very likely be able to refinance into a lower interest rate and considerably lower your payment. And the reason why it's impactful for a lot of people, especially this time of year, is look, we know the holidays are coming. We know a lot of people are strapped. We know it's been a tough year. We know there's people struggling financially. We know people that are worried. Are they going to have enough money, for presents for the kids or for the trip that they want to take? So you can strategically line your refinance up with an FHA or VA streamline and lower your payment. And I want you to understand that it is very much almost like a rubber stamp refinance. Okay. It's not going to reappraise the property. So if you're someone that has an FHA or VA loan and you don't think you have equity anymore, it doesn't matter, okay? If you're someone that's worried about your credit or you missed some payments, same thing. Like they've already approved your loan. The way the VA and FHA look at it, you already have a loan with them, okay? They're already loaning you money, right? They're already going to keep loaning you money. They're already guaranteeing your loan. If you've missed some payments and your credit isn't as good, it still is going to impact your ability whether or not you're going to pay them their money. So they're willing to lower your rate for you, okay, to make it easier on you, to lower your payment, and also potentially, like I said, if you time it right, you could skip having an actual mortgage payment and kind of navigate that around the holidays. Now, the reason why that makes sense this year more than other years is because that lines up with the Fed rate cuts. Now, what we know about the Fed rate cuts is they're predicting 2 or 3 more Fed rate cuts. Now, there's a lot of rumors out there, and the next meeting isn't until the end of October to determine it. But if there's 2 or 3 more Fed rate cuts, interest rates will soften a little bit more. So by the end of the year, around the holidays, it should line up very nicely at potentially. Again, there's always, with the economy, the government, mortgages, the Fed, there's always curveballs and there's always things you can't predict. So none of this can be guaranteed. But I want you to be aware of it if you have an FHA or VA mortgage and your rate is, high sixes into the sevens, mid to high sixes into the sevens, and maybe you're not in an equity position. You could be able to refinance and lower your payment at the end of the year, even if your credit's gotten worse, even if your home won't appraise, even if you don't have equity, even if you've got some income issues, you could potentially qualify to do that at the end of the year. And a lot of people, if they time it right, you'll get the benefit of some Fed rate cuts, or even the if you time it a little bit ahead of that. So if we get a Fed rate cut in October, another one in November, and there's a chance for another one in December, the Fed moves, the mortgage market moves in the direction of the prediction for the Fed. So let's just say, for example, we expect a Fed rate cut at the end of October. About mid-October or a week out, mortgages start relaxing the rates towards the direction of the strong likelihood the Fed's going to cut rates. The Fed rate cut itself usually doesn't have a massive impact on mortgage rates. It's tied to treasuries, but it does indirectly affect, and mortgages move in the direction of the likelihood of that happening. So nonetheless, there's a really good chance of lower mortgage rates at the end of the year, and VA and FHA loans have this unique ability to do a streamlined refinance that doesn't go through a typical refinance like other products. Other products, you've got to, you got to go back through this you got to go through appraisal, you got to qualify, they got to look at because it's basically another lender or another investor that's going to end up taking over your new loan. Well, with VA and FHA, because they're backing loan, it's the same. It's them again. So there's just much less hoops to jump through. It's much less complicated, and it can be an instantaneous drop in your payment. And of course, like I mentioned before, if timed right, a month where you don't actually have a mortgage payment, which could be huge relief for people this holiday season. And so how you do that, you go to citywidetampa.com. You can contact Melissa directly, let her know that you want to do you're interested in doing a streamlined refinance. Even if you're not going to do it till the end of the year, reach out now so that she can get everything ready and have it all prepared so that it can be done ahead of time. The sooner you do that process and get that done, the quicker that the process can happen when it comes time for you to pull the trigger. But you could go to citywidetampa.com. You can apply directly on there. You can contact Melissa with any questions. Her contact information is on there, as well as the application link directly. And again, I sympathize with people because we are approaching the holidays. I know the economy's been rough for people, even though the stock market's high. That's obviously helping a lot of wealthy people get more wealthy. There's a lot of everyday people out there right now struggling, and they don't know about this ability to considerably lower their payment with no out-of-pocket cost and a very, very, very simple process to lower that interest rate compared to the normal process of doing a refinance. So again, citywidetampa.com to do that. So again, you're listening to the Duncan Duo Real Estate Show. When we aren't on air, please make sure to follow us on all of our socials at The Duncan Duo, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. I'm going to come back in the next segment. I'm going to tease this a little bit because if you're thinking about selling your home, there's some things I'm seeing happen a lot in the market right now. They're causing sellers to make mistakes, and they're picking the wrong agents. They're having the wrong strategies. They're not putting their best foot forward. Some of them are being cheap. They're going to the cheap place. Hey, let me find the cheapest guy. Cheap work ain't good and good work ain't cheap. When you're selling the most expensive thing that you're going to sell, when you crimp, when you cut corners and you look for the cheapest guy, you're going to get what you pay for. You're going to lose some equity. You're going to lose some marketing because you're basically asking them to give up their marketing dollars to get your home exposure. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to give you some home selling tips, some things to look for when picking an agent, as well as some things to do to prepare your home for sale. So if you're thinking about selling, stay tuned, and we'll be back on the other side after a quick break here on the Duncan Duo Show. So we're back here on the Duncan Duo Show talking about the Tampa Bay real estate market. Andrew Duncan with the Duncan Duo team at LPT Realty. When we aren't on air again at the Duncan Duo. I talked about this before the break, and I just want to remind people, if you have a VA or FHA mortgage, you want to lower your interest rate. You have an interest rate in the mid sixes into the sevens. Maybe you're somebody that's not in an equity position. You bought the last few years, but you want to lower your payment. It is one of the easiest products to refinance. It doesn't cost you money out of pocket. You can lower your payment. You can even skip a payment during the holidays. I know there are a lot of people out there that could use that this year. Just go to citywidetampa.com. Again, that's citywidetampa.com. So I talked about tips for home sellers, and I want to break down some of these because there are a lot of consumers making mistakes right now with the agent that they hire. One of those is they're going with the cheapest agent. Okay, they're going and talking to 2 or 3 agents, and then they're saying, you know what, I'm going to go with the cheap guy. Okay, here's what you get when you go with the cheap guy in real estate. Okay, you get somebody that's not a great negotiator. Okay, if they can't negotiate their own fee, right? If they've had to discount, then they're going to discount your equity too. How can you trust the negotiating skills of someone that can't even negotiate their own fee when you're talking about your equity, your hard-earned equity? Okay, so you get what you pay for. Second, the more they cheap out, the less marketing budget that they're going to have. Okay, they're not going to be able to have the money to do social media ad campaigns or videos or professional photos. They're going to cut corners on the marketing because their margins are compressed because you wanted to be cheap. You're selling the most expensive thing you're likely ever going to sell. If you're going to be cheap on something, it's not your house, right? There are a lot of inexperienced agents that got into the business the last few years, and I'm seeing a massive amount of homeowners that have lost considerable equity as prices drop in the marketplace because they went with the cheap agent. They thought, oh, well, my equity isn't as good, so let me, I don't have as much equity as I thought, so let me try and save some money and go with the cheap agent. And all they did was make their problem worse. And then they rode the market down because not only did they go with the cheap agent, but they didn't listen on price. So Don't skimp. Don't go to the cheapest agent. You're selling the most expensive thing you're going to sell. You need an experienced negotiator. Experienced negotiators ain't cheap. The best lawyers aren't cheap. The best doctors aren't cheap. The best cars aren't cheap. Okay. If you want the best, hit us up. We'd love to help you. DuncanDuo.com. And not just us, but do your homework. If you're working with an agent or a team that doesn't have a lot of business, and you're doing it based on purely on price. Unfortunately, we are not in the market today where stuff's flying off the shelf, where it's easy to sell a house. It is really, really, really challenging. And again, we're getting contacted daily by home sellers whose homes didn't sell. They're frustrated. They went with the cheap agent. They went with their buddy or their uncle's cousin's friend. The home didn't sell. And now they're desperate because they took it out. They waited too long and they ate up their equity as prices dropped by going with the cheap agent that didn't market their house, couldn't negotiate, wasn't experienced, hasn't done a lot of listings, had never been in a challenged market, and only worked in hot markets. So I'm telling you guys, there's so many people making this mistake right now on when they're selling their home. Another important tactic when selling your home is, again, not just the agent you choose, but the strategy you choose. Pricing your home aggressively has never been more important. Okay. I want to reiterate that. Pricing your home aggressively has never been more important. We are in the market isn't great. The economy isn't great. We still have a hangover from a lot of the storm stuff. Our market's been 3 years without appreciation. Frankly, it's been depreciation when you factor in inflation, but it's been pretty flat. Okay. It's a really challenging market to sell in when interest rates are high. We're starting to see some relief, okay? But if you have to sell right now, the relief isn't here yet, okay? It's not. The interest rates have not massively dropped. The market hasn't massively improved. It's still very challenging. You've got to hire somebody that's aggressive, that's got experience. Aggressive and experience isn't cheap, okay? Again, if you're going to have a lawsuit and it's going to be the most expensive thing you've ever done or the most amount of money you'd ever get, don't hire the cheap guy. If you're going to go in and get brain surgery, hire the best. Don't hire the cheap guy. There's a lot of people right now hiring the cheap guy, and it is costing them massively. Condition of your home matters. Price matters. When I say aggressive, if you think your home is worth $500,000, you are way better off pricing it at $475,000 than you are at $525,000. Okay. At $525,000, people don't want to negotiate. Okay. Let me explain this again. People that are buying your home do not want to negotiate. The majority of consumers, if they wanted to negotiate everything, they'd be going to flea markets. How many consumers buy stuff at flea markets? They don't. They buy it on Amazon. They click a button. That's what they want to do with your house. They don't want to have conversations. They don't want to talk to people. They don't want to haggle. Okay. They want to purchase, right? And if your home is overpriced, they're simply going to click next and not buy your house, okay? You have to have your home aggressively priced to get them to engage. And certainly they may negotiate, but the reality is the further away from reality you are on your price, the more likely they are going to click next because you're not rewarding them with the experience that consumers have told us over and over and over again that they want. They want ease, they want convenience, they want to click a button. Your home has to be so aggressively priced that the consumer would be willing to click a button, okay? And the button that they're clicking when you're overpriced is the next button, okay? You've got to price aggressive. You got to price below market with the chance to get at market, okay? You create a bidding war. You create a seller's market for your house. That is working today. If you don't want to price your home like that and your home isn't some amazing thing that there's nothing, no other product like it, your home is going to sit. You've got to be aggressive with your price. If you're not aggressive with your price, you're not going to sell. This isn't the market to test. This isn't the market to try. This isn't the market to hope. Okay. If you are going to sell today, you got to be aggressive with your price. And I'm going to talk about condition. I want to give you guys some tips of what you can do to improve your condition of your home to prepare for sale after a quick break here on the Duncan Duo Real Estate Show. So back here on the Duncan Duo Real Estate Show, we talked in the first segment about the government shutdown, the impact it's having, and if you have a VA or FHA loan and you're in the mid-6s or into the 7s with your interest rate, maybe even if you're not in equity, you bought the last few years, you can do a streamlined refinance at the end of the year, lower your mortgage payment, lower your interest rate, and potentially skip a mortgage payment. If you time it right, you need to go to citywidetampa.com. It's a program not a lot of people know about. People that are struggling this holiday season that could use the extra money. It's a great opportunity to be able to use if you have a VA or FHA loan product. Again, citywidetampa.com. I also talked in the last segment about pricing your home aggressively, how it's the only way that's going to move your house right now. A lot of agents are advising people poorly on price. A lot of sellers aren't listening, and a lot of sellers are going with the cheap agent, and then their home isn't selling. They're losing money. They're eating mortgage payments. Their value is, they're losing value because they skimped on commission, and then they get real after they've lost a bunch of money, and then they finally, come to the right agent, and we're getting a lot of that right now. So if that is you, if your home didn't sell, DuncanDuo.com. Again, that is DuncanDuo.com. I want to talk about condition, though, because if you're selling today, you're in what I call a combination of a price war and a beauty contest at the same time. You heard my opinion about price and what you need to do to price your home aggressively to get buyers interested in it today, based on all the economic data, based on the stats, based on the things going on in our real estate market. Now, that is how you can handle price. Condition, you need to be one of the best conditioned, okay? So not only do you need to be great priced, but you need to be best conditioned. If there's 10 homes in the neighborhood and 1 or 2 are going to sell over the next month, you've got to be 1 or 2 that look like the best deal to get the at-bats. Constantly, I'm seeing homes out there that are the 5th and the 6th and the 7th on price and condition, and then they're wondering why they're not getting any attention. It's because they didn't look at the competition. You can't look backwards when you're selling today. And when I say look backwards, what your neighbor sold for 6 months or a year ago is irrelevant. It doesn't matter anymore. You can't look backwards. You have to look at the competition. What's within a half mile of you? What are you competing with? What are those homes priced at? What are the concessions that they're offering? And you've got to be willing to be aggressive. It's just, that is just the market that we're in. So when it comes to condition, you've got to eliminate a lot of the things that would cause a consumer not to want to buy your house, okay? Some of the cosmetic things that you could skimp on in years past. Maybe pressure washing the driveway or the house, or repainting the front door, or freshening up the mulch and the landscaping. A lot of inexpensive things can be done to make your home look better, and you've got to go the extra mile and put forth that effort. That doesn't mean you need to massively renovate your house, but you need to put in the sweat equity and spend a little bit of money to make your home stand out. So again, it's got to be one of the best priced and best conditioned. So if there are obvious condition issues, you need to address them. If there are things that are going to pop up in an inspection, they're going to end up costing you more later. Spend the money now. And what I mean by that is, let's just say you've got something that you know is wrong and needs addressed. Maybe it's $1,000. Here's what ends up happening, okay? When you go into contract with a buyer and the inspector finds something wrong, the inspector is going to word that in a way. It's going to make the buyer think that the house is going to burn down, and, it's going to be chaos. It's going to be worded in a way that's going to scare the buyer. The buyer isn't going to know what that thing costs, and they're going to ask for some stupid amount of money, okay? And then they're going to use that to hold over you while you're in the process of trying to buy your next house, and they're going to ask for more money than it would cost to cure it. Cure it now if you can, okay? If you know something is wrong, don't wait to let them find it in the inspection. Guess what? They're going to find it, and then that item that you could have cured for $1,000, they're going to say, oh, it's $2,500. Or their contractor is going to give them some stupid number. Or they're just going to leverage. They know they have leverage. They know that you're out there looking at homes. They know that you don't want to put your house back on the market. They know you don't want to have more days on market. They know you don't want to have to tell the next customer that it fell apart on inspections. So they ask for more money, okay? Bulletproof your home sale by taking care of condition items up front so that you don't have to later on, especially cosmetic stuff. And people say things like, well, the pressure washing's cosmetic. No one's going to notice that in inspection. That's not even going to be an issue. So I don't want to do that. That's what customers say. Problem is when they see like the driveway's not pressure washed, or the house doesn't look clean, or there's not fresh mulch, their immediate impression when they walk up to your house is that it's not taken care of. So they're going to be less likely to buy it because they're going to think there's more things wrong with it. Well, if they didn't pressure wash their driveway before they put the house on the market, are they servicing the AC? Have they taken care of electric issues? Is there a roof leak that we don't know about? Because if they're not taking care of the outside, there's probably stuff we can't see they're not taking care of. That's the assumption customers are going to make. So sellers, you've got to have an aggressive price and you've got to address your condition issues. Next thing I want to talk about is if you take your house off the market, okay? I know there are sellers out there, and we deal with this all the time too. The seller that wants their house on the market tomorrow. I want it on the market tomorrow. I need it on the market tomorrow because they want to check off a box, okay? It's got to go on the market. It doesn't. You want to put it on the market right. When we get rushed to throw a house on the market, people want it to be done sloppy. They want photos taken on a rainy day. They want it thrown out there. Do you want it done or do you want it done right? Customers, you're hiring a marketer, okay? They need to put a plan in place. They have syndication. They have places they have to send the listing. They have websites that pull data. They've got to edit the photos and the video. They need to do a demographic study to determine where they're going to advertise this on social media. They've got to read the copy and have multiple people look at it. They've got to run it through AI. They've got to look at the property disclosure. There's a lot of things that goes on to putting a home on the market. It's not just you take a photo and you slap that stuff up on MLS. That's what sellers sometimes want. And that's just a poor strategy. So sellers, let the agent do their job. Chill out. A few days of them doing it right is going to be way better than them slopping it up there because you're impatient and you want to check a box. The same thing goes for when your house comes off the market. We've had clients call us and say, or sellers call us and say, hey, I just parted ways with this agent. Either I terminated the agreement if I had a clause to terminate. Some do, some don't. They withdrew it or it expired. And I want to put it back on the market tomorrow. Okay. Sellers, your agent, especially at my company, we're the expert. Okay. Let us do our job. Let us give you guidance. Okay. The reason your home maybe didn't sell the first time, maybe it's because you. Okay. Listen a little bit. Let us come up with the right strategy to get the maximum exposure and understand that if you were a great marketer, you wouldn't have needed an agent and your home would have already sold. Okay. Let the great marketer do their job. Okay. So sometimes it's going to be things like, hey, we got to take a step back. We got to come up with a new strategy. We got to take new photos. We got to have it come off the market for a little while. Okay. So that it can go back on the market and look like a fresh new listing. Or we're going to have a week of rain. So I really don't want to, Mr. Seller, I want to sell your house, but you understand that those photos are there forever. I don't want to take photos and if it's raining every day and then have it look like gloom and doom when people in New York that are wanting to move here want to buy sunshine and rainbows. So if you're going to hire an agent, especially after you hired the wrong one and your home failed to sell because maybe you didn't listen to the agent the first time, or maybe the agent was a bad one. The second time, learn your lesson, okay? If you're parting with your agent, you can put your house back on the market, learn your lesson, okay? You really don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're talking about. If you did, your home would have sold or you'd have hired a better agent. Listen to the expert, hire the pro. Don't hire the cheap guy again. Hire the best. And then listen to the advice they give you so they can put the right marketing strategy in place, okay? Same thing goes with open houses. This is a fun one. I love open houses, maybe a couple of them when a house first goes on the market, because I think it's a great opportunity for consumers to, in a neighborhood for people to come and look at a house, or for kind of an open opportunity for anyone that can go and look at it without any pressure sales tactics and just to kind of observe. The reality is that open houses don't sell homes, okay? Your buyer is very unlikely to see your house at an open house. Okay. The open house, most of the time, is really more a marketing tactic for real estate agents to meet your neighbors, to pick up buyers, or to find another listing in your neighborhood. The likelihood of your home selling from an open house is very, very, very slim. It is a marketing tactic. Do we do it? Yes. Do we do them well? Yes. Do we want to do them? Yes. However, we have homeowners that come in and say, I want an open house every weekend. Okay. That's what a lockbox is for. It kind of is an open house every weekend. The agents really don't have to do much. They have to click a button. An appointment gets set. It can be opened up anytime. That's what a lockbox is. It's pretty much open house all the time. Okay. If you want to do an open house every weekend, I want to advise you on why that's a bad idea. Number one, you're setting your home up for an opportunity for assault, a scam, somebody to case your house, somebody pocket your stuff. If you're advertising open house every weekend, you're basically saying to every criminal out there, because the lockbox system provides some security access, a check and a balance to make sure who's coming and going. There's a realtor in between that person and the customer to pre-screen that person, to do a background check, to pre-qualify them. Doing an open house, you're basically saying, hey, criminals, come into my house every weekend. Please come and case my house every weekend and figure out where my cameras are, my security system. Please. Okay. Number one. Number two problem with doing an open house way too much, in addition to the security, you're saying, I'm desperate. Please lowball me. My home can't sell on its own, so I've got to schlep my agent out here every weekend to do an open house every weekend. And, I'm basically saying, I'm desperate. Please lowball me. People naturally want things that other people want, okay? Sometimes providing a little bit of resistance to access to something makes them want it even more. If they know there's an open house all day, every day, that doesn't exist, number one. And number two, you look desperate, okay? It's not a good look. I promise you, the consumers are noticing. Your neighbors are noticing. The people driving around that neighborhood are noticing. Open houses every weekend aren't great. Open houses are very good early on in the marketing process, okay, to get some exposure for the house, to make sure everyone driving through that neighborhood knows it's for sale. Sometimes neighbors know another person wants to live in the community. You really want to make sure that everybody in the neighborhood knows it's for sale. It's good for that. It's good for, that little resistance for the customer that maybe doesn't want to talk to an agent yet. It's good for that. It's good for that for the first couple weeks. After that, an open house isn't really relevant anymore because you've lost all of that. And it becomes more risky than anything. There's so many assaults, batteries, robberies. They come from open houses. So again, do we do them? Yes. Do we do them right? Yes. Do we want to do one every weekend because a home seller wants one, because a home seller doesn't want to listen to what will work to actually sell their home? No. So stop asking for open houses every weekend. You're not doing yourself any favors. You're actually not helping yourself. So if you want more real estate tips, follow us on all of our social media channels at The Duncan Duo, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook. Again, at The Duncan Duo. If you want to sell your home, get a home value estimate, instant cash offer, we do as well. Just hit up DuncanDuo.com. Again, type in quick address. It can auto-populate from your phone. Again, at DuncanDuo.com. We're going to be back to wrap up our last segment after a quick break here on The Duncan Duo Show. So we're back here on the Duncan Duo Show talking about the Tampa Bay real estate market like we are every Sunday at 10 here on WFLA News at The Duncan Duo, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, DuncanDuo.com for an instant cash offer on your house to get your home value estimate, or to set a home selling consultation with an agent from our team to come out and help you determine which path is right for you. It's one of the unique things on our team is we give you all your options. We say, hey, look, here's what it looks like if you just do cash. Here's what it looks like if you go on the market traditionally. Here are the things that you need to do. So we can give you all those paths. Again, that's at DuncanDuo.com. 1 in 3 homes was bought with cash in 2025. This is something I want to kind of reiterate here, because I think this is important for people to understand why our real estate market is not nearly as at risk of a massive downward spiral like in the Great Recession. Of course, the real estate market has not been great the last few years, but it's also not been terrible. We have reduced transaction counts, and our home prices have been pretty flat with some slight depreciation. Nothing like the Great Recession where we were seeing homes dropping, the average sale price in Tampa was dropping 10% a month during certain periods, and home sales were at historic lows. The reason why? The amount of cash in the marketplace. It's the reason why we won't have the massive downturn that we have the next time, is because Wall Street has deployed cash into our real estate market. There are hedge funds buying up homes that will gladly buy them up if people fall behind or turn into foreclosures. There are buyers on Wall Street with cash ready to pull the trigger that don't need financing, that don't need appraisals, that are buying those for long-term holds. Enormous multi-billion dollar hedge funds that are buying homes for long-term rentals. So a third of home sales were all cash. Cash dominates in the extremes of the market too, okay? 2/3 of homes under $100,000 were cash, and more than 40% of homes over $1 million were bought with cash, with the share topping 50% for homes above $2 million, okay? So again, the amount of cash that's in the marketplace is higher than it's ever been. So that protects the real estate market, because what kills the real estate market wasn't the recession. The recession didn't kill the real estate market. What killed the real estate market was foreclosures. Okay. Now, so the cash being what it is, another reason why we'll never see the foreclosure crisis that we saw back in back 15 years ago, 15 years ago. I was selling real estate then. I was a relatively newly licensed, a few years in the business. The qualification process for getting a mortgage is massively different. Okay. The ability to get more second and third home mortgages and investor loans is different. The amount of cash in the marketplace and the banks. Okay. The banks and the investors don't want to foreclose, so they do forbearance. They kick the can down the road. They do deed in lieu, so that then those foreclosures don't ever hit the market at these low retail prices, because that's what pulls the values down. Okay. If they do hedge fund trading, like some big hedge fund goes to B of A and says, hey, we want all your bad houses, we'll buy them in bulk, then individual prices don't ever get recorded for those properties. When individual prices don't get reported because they bought them in a bulk debt sale and then they did cash for keys, those numbers don't hit the market to pull the price down. The banks and the hedge funds have figured it out. We won't see massive depreciation again. The residential real estate market has a bubble around it for that reason. Okay. So, and of course, the amount of cash and the federal government allowing Wall Street to basically buy up real estate. They had a lot of protections on that back, many, many years ago, and now they don't. So Wall Street's hedge funds buying properties like crazy. So among metros, there are a lot of cash buyers varying across the country, driven by home prices, demographics, and market dynamics. The all cash share states, Mississippi, Montana, Idaho, Hawaii, and Maine, all 45 to 50% range. Okay, for homes that were bought all cash. Miami, 43%, San Antonio, 39%, Kansas City, Kansas 39%, Birmingham 38%, Houston 38%, and St. Louis 38% led the nation cash share for the first half of 2025. By contrast, high-cost job-centered markets saw the lowest cash shares: Seattle, San Jose, Denver, and Washington, D.C. We're kind of in the middle there with Tampa. But nonetheless, the cash sales are kind of the protection. When we're definitely higher than pre-pandemic levels. We're definitely higher cash amounts than we were in the Great Recession. Those amount of cash sales obviously aren't going to become foreclosures. And the mortgage process protects it, as well as, like I mentioned before, the banks and investors learning from the last time to protect the real estate market with things like forbearance, hedge fund, large debt scale purchases, cash for keys, homes not making it all the way to the foreclosure steps because they work out something with an investor, a hedge fund, to buy their debt. All those things help protect the value. So in essence, we would have definitely already seen a real estate crash, especially, probably, pandemic or after. had those things not been in place. Those things protected the market. So whether we're still in a free market economy for real estate is a conversation for another day, because it's not quite capitalist anymore. It's definitely got some government overtones and protections. So hopefully that makes sense, but hopefully it also gives you peace of mind to know that the risk in real estate is somewhat protected by that backstop. So again, you've been listening to the Duncan Duo Real Estate Show. When we aren't on air, follow us on all of our socials at The Duncan Duo. And if you need to sell your home, you want a quick cash offer, you want to set an appointment with an agent on our team, hit up DuncanDuo.com. And if you need one of those VA or FHA streamlined refinances to lower your interest rate, even if you don't have equity, hit up CitywideTampa.com and have an awesome rest of your Sunday weekend, Tampa Bay.